Let's get some more action. Professor in the Department of Political Sciences at the University of South Africa, Professor Dirk Kotze, joins us for more. Very good evening to you, Professor Kotze. Thank you for your time. I mean, mixed reaction there, but calls for Advocate Shamila Batohi to be removed from her position. I mean, just listening to this package, one critic is, well, some critics are saying that high-profile cases have collapsed due to incompetence, corruption within the prosecutorial ranks, but others are saying that she's put good policies in place, considering what she initially inherited. What's your view?
Yes, I think there is a mixed record about what this situation during her time has been. The position of the national director is in the first instance to determine prosecutorial policy. So she is not directly involved in prosecuting persons. That is done at the provincial level by the provincial directors. So she is there as the person who is coordinating, providing it from a national point of view, the work that it should be done at the provincial level. So I think in that sense, she has done a very difficult job, and that is to turn around the National Prosecuting Authority from one of the state institutions that were regarded by very many people as being actually part of the state churches. Because they played are placed in such an important position. We've seen since the first National Director of Public Prosecutions, Bulalani Muka, that the others that followed, the three others, didn't stay more than 3 years at the time as a result of this political turmoil. I think she came, and now the fact that she's there now already for 6 years means that there is a stabilization that took place within the position of the National Director. The court cases that's been referred to and the issues, the follow-ups in terms of the TRC, because there were quite a number of cases that were referred by the TRC for public prosecution, as well as other outstanding matters like interest, like, for example, the Craddock 4 and others. These are matters that are still in the pipeline. But I think if one looks at all the work that they have to be done, and especially to implement the immense task of the recommendation from the Zondo Commission, then it is an enormous task for her to be able to do.
In fact, as you touch, Professor, on the Zondo Commission, what's to be made of the political nature of this role that Advocate Batohi holds, and how in the past its undermining was key to the state capture project?
Yes, I think the position of the National Director of the NPA is more complicated than those of the Chapter 9 institutions, because the prosecuting authority is part of the Department of Justice. They don't have the independence of, let's say, the public prosecutor, the public protector, for example. So they have to be as independent as possible, but then at the same time, they act on behalf of the state. They are the state prosecutors in all these cases. So they are directly responsible and accountable to the Minister of Justice. And I think this is where the issues become quite complicated, because many of these court cases, they have political undertones. And then it is a question of how do you position yourself as the National Director, but at the same time not become involved in the party politics, factionism, and all other things that we are very much aware of. That's typical of the political landscape. So I think this is where the real complications have been, and where she, to some extent, has kept herself out of the party politics. But she is obviously very much can become a political target from wherever position you are.
Yeah. And as we reflect on some of the cases, I mean, you mentioned some of the cases which are still in the pipeline, but and the perceived blunders on high-profile cases, and the latest, the Nigerian televangelist Timothy Omotoso, a lot of criticism around there. On a broader scale, would you say the NPA has been strengthened and set back on course under Advocate Batohi's leadership, or perhaps not?
Well, I think she has done or turned around the NPA. I think she herself will say it's not yet where it should be. because the task, the challenge was in order to bring in a lot of new persons. And this is now only 6 years. In terms of the lifetime of an institution like this, it is a very short period of time where she has been, I would almost say, bombarded with a number of tasks that she had to do at the same time. In order to build new capacity, because there was an outflow of persons, some very competent persons who became, in a sense, caught within the state capture politics, and they didn't want to continue. So there was an outflow of competence, and she had to rebuild it. And I think there is already some indication that she's succeeding in that, but there's a very long way to go. At the same time, I think one should also look at the role of the courts. The fact that the courts are so overloaded with cases, and that there's obviously not enough state prosecutors in order to really specialize in these cases, I think makes it very difficult for them to be like expert prosecutors in these cases. They try to survive in many instances. That's the only opportunity. That's the only goal in order to be able to do their work.
Very well. Thank you so much for speaking to us and weighing in on this topic this evening. Professor at the University of South Africa's Political Sciences Department, Professor Dirk Kotze.